Mike Medeiros here. I'm at the Conservative Political Action Conference in beautiful Washington Harbor, National Harbor, Maryland, and I'm joined by famous radio host on Sirius XM 125 Patriot, Andrew Wilkow. So I've been listening to Andrew Wilkow since I've been in middle school. So what's it like being back at CPAC?
Well, this year's obviously, with the election of Trump, this is going to be perhaps the most interesting CPAC, I don't want to say ever, but in my career and in my lifetime, because this is the first time we could say in our lifetimes somebody who wasn't climbing the political ladder their whole career is now president of the United States. Every single order and ounce of the status quo has been completely upended. So the establishment has been weakened. It has been kind of put in a corner, and now you're seeing this entire conference that kind of wasn't sure about Donald Trump in the beginning. Now you're seeing Make America Great hat again, Make America Great Again hats, all over this place. So this is like Trump's convention.
So now there's kind of been a lot of fighting in the Republican Party about what we're going to do about Obamacare. He kind of had an ambitious plan to start out with, but now they're kind of stumbling. Ted Cruz in his town hall mentioned that we should be able to buy insurance across state lines, health insurance, savings accounts, and stuff like that. But they've sort of stalled on that. How long do you think that they're going to take to actually repeal and replace Obamacare, which is why Donald Trump basically got arrested?
I'm going to tell you something that might be a little controversial. I don't think they had any intention of repealing it. These guys all ran on it, and when they took the House back in 2010, they said, "Oh, but we only have one half of one branch of the government." And then we gave them the Senate in 2014. They said, well, we don't have the White House. Now they have the White House. There's kind of no excuse, but there's been really no motion. And if their real intention was to replace Obamacare with something else, in my crazy mind, I guess I would think they would have been working on that already. That they would have had that, some kind of plan about HSAs or, bringing down state barrier lines or selling insurance on the internet and that sort of thing. And the Republicans seem to have no plan because I don't think they planned on having a plan. So now that we have Donald Trump as president, whether you like him or not, there really is kind of no excuse. The problem is they're making nothing but excuses. So I don't know. By this time in Obama's first term, they were ramming down stimulus.
They had the stimulus package.
They had an agenda of legislation ready to go should they take the White House. They did, and they put it into place. A lot of these Republicans seem like they're still dumbfounded by the election.
Yeah, and so now another issue that's coming up is this issue of free speech on college campuses, the whole thing with Milo, UC Berkeley. As I was telling you before, I wanted to do a political talk show on WXCI at my school, and I was
my wife's an alumni of WestCon.
and I was actually shot down basically on political grounds. What do you think about the assault on free speech on college campuses?
I'm going to be 45 this summer, but I don't feel that detached from my college years. I went to the University of Florida, and all this stuff was starting in the 90s, and I remember when George H.W. Bush was going out and Bill Clinton was coming in, it was kind of like all of a sudden there were all these, protected classes and tiny agendas with boundaries that you couldn't cross, and, there was all of this importance. Like, it wasn't just fun to be in college anymore, and it seems like this has only gotten worse. That college was supposed to be the place where you explored your intellectual you, right? You would be confronted with things that you had never heard before, people you never met before, ideas that would run contrary to what you may have been brought up with, and you were supposed to come out the other side. Maybe you picked up an idea or jettisoned an idea, but you're supposed to come out the other side a better intellectual. And it almost seems like the reverse is true, that we're sending people back to almost a preschool mentality of your feelings will never be hurt, you will never see or hear icky thoughts or icky words or icky political beliefs. You will stay in your tiny protected little bubble, and if you feel harmed by any of this, somebody will give you a hug, and that's the opposite of what college is supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
It's all right.
But college is supposed to be that, you're supposed to grow your intellect, not shrink it.
So 2018 is coming up. I'm from Connecticut. Of course, you know how bad Connecticut's doing. Ranked 50th in terms of fiscal health. We've got Governor Dan.
Finally, it's not New Jersey anymore.
Yeah, right. We've got Governor Dan Malloy has done a terrible job. He's driven businesses out of Connecticut. And then we've got his race, and then we've got Senator Chris Murphy's race coming up as well. Do you think the Republicans in Connecticut stand any chance of getting Chris Murphy and Dan Malloy and the Democrat Party out of power in Hartford?
Sorry, not out of power, but you know what? If the tax cutting policies are bringing jobs to other regions of the country, you know, Reagan won 2 landslides. That, you know, back in 1984, and you know, I was a little kid when this was all happening. The Democrat argument against Reagan's economy fell flat. That in the end, you know, Clinton was right. It's the economy, stupid. So if there's a federal tax cut, if there are federal regulations that get rolled back, and red states begin to thrive greater than blue states, people are going to blame now the state government. It can't be the excuse that, well, what do you want us to do? The federal government's, you know, doing this to us. It's going to be hard for, you know, Democrat politicians in Connecticut to say we need to continue the liberal status quo. Well, they're getting jobs in Kentucky, or they're getting jobs in Texas, or they're getting jobs in Oklahoma. You know, why can't we do that here? Well, the answer will be you have to cut taxes and you have to roll back regulations. If they don't do it, it'll be to their peril.
And real quick, what do you think about Malloy trying to jack up the pistol permit cost by 400%?
You know, when I lived there, when I was in radio,
isn't that kind of like pricing poor people out of their right to the Second Amendment?
Look, almost all licensing. You know, why do you get a marriage license? It's a revenue driver for the state, right? I mean, the state can't really stop you from, you know, any of the activities that come with being married. You don't even have to be married to have those things. It's a revenue driver.
Right.
When I lived in Connecticut, when Roland was governor, Connecticut was a shall-issue state.
And he ruined it for Republicans in Connecticut.
That's
Roland went to jail for corruption
but it was a shall-issue state back then.
Right.
And when you get guys like Malloy or whatever we're going to get after Christie, or what you get with a guy like Cuomo, this is their way of using the tax code in some fashion to drive behavior. They don't want you to have guns, so they're going to make it financially more restrictive for people who want to exercise the Second Amendment rights, which is also a stupid thing for Connecticut, considering how many gun manufacturers you have.
Exactly.
And they're picking up and leaving.
They're Mossberg, you know, picking up and
Remington,
and leaving.
Yeah, they're picking up and leaving. Pretty soon it'll be Stag Arms. I mean, they're going to leave. If Connecticut remains hostile to the Second Amendment, the cult will stay forever because they get government contracts. But all these other manufacturers will go to Alabama and Tennessee.
All right, that's Andrew Wilkow of the Wilkow Majority, Sirius XM Patriot 125. Thank you so much for talking with me, Mr. Wilkow.